We'll never be moved from here. Our lives can live in the seeds we've sown.
Welcome to the Art of Relating podcast, where I'm figuring out life, asking questions, becoming present with the unknown, and navigating the mystery with my dear friends. These conversations are one of my greatest resources, and I hope they can be a catalyst for you on your journey as well. I'm your host, Tammy Chow from Somatic Spirit. So today I have James on the podcast. Welcome, everyone. And I just want to tell a little bit of background about how I met James and his partner, Brittany, who is also a dear friend of mine as well. And James, Brittany, and I are currently in a group somatic modality called Radical Aliveness together, which is where we met. Was that 4 years ago or 5 years ago now?
2021.
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. So 4 years ago, when I was deep in my individual somatic processing journey, I was really diving into this work. I decided to go to a Radical Aliveness retreat, which was like the group process and Radical Aliveness was the body of work that I was doing somatic work with a one-on-one practitioner. And it was my first group retreat, and I walked in and I remember you scan the room and you're like, oh my God, who's here?
Mm-hmm.
And then I see Brittany and James, like the cutest couple. And I was in the midst of a 6-year I was in my relationship, I think for like 4.5 years then, and in a bit of a rut of wanting family and kids, but my partner just not really getting there with me. And we didn't do somatic work together yet. He wasn't in therapy, but I just remember seeing you and Brittany and being like, that's what I want. Like, I feel like at the time I was really into Lacey Phillips to be magnetic work. And she talks about finding expanders so that your subconscious can kind of like see what's possible. And I don't think I had any frame of reference for conscious relationships until I met you and Brittany. And I was like, oh, your partner can be going to these things with you. Like you guys can actually be working on these things together. Whereas I was feeling like I was like fighting tooth and nail just to be seen in like all of my therapy work and for it to not be seen as like woo woo. So that's where I met Brittany and James, and I witnessed you guys in like a crazy process. And I'll let you tell it from your perspective, but like this was the first time that I've ever been in a group space. One, like people not even just like talking about their emotions, but like throwing shit, like complete rage screaming, beating the shit out of a block. So can you take us back? Oh, and then before we even get into that, like fast forward, I'm about to go to your wedding and I have gotten to witness the most beautiful just journey of separation, coming back together, and then now being in this training with you guys and now getting invited to your wedding. It's just been like the sweetest and most inspiring thing to watch. And so, yeah, that's just like to give the audience and a whole arc of the story. But like, let's go back in time to that Radical Aliveness retreat. And I'd love for you to, just tell us about what was alive for you guys, what was like present that needed to be worked through, and what happened during the retreat.
Yeah. So cool. This is so fun. It's really so nice to be with you. And just like, you in your role and out of your role and all that. It's like, I'm just like already having such a good time. And really poignant to like, just remember that and remember who you were, and then just to like go back to like where I was at and then where Brittany and I were both at. But she had proposed that we go to that, and I remember feeling really resistant, and I was already in SE training and I was already deep into a group process called the Event, which is like radical aliveness on meth.
Wow.
Just in the sense that it's like, not meth by any means, but just like a very deep lineage and kind of like the most intense 4 days you could ever imagine, where it's like 36 people, one room, 4 days, like very little breaks. And so I already had that sort of group process orientation, but I remember feeling really resistant to the RA thing. And I think a lot of it was just like, because it was Brittany wanted to do it. And then, I think she paid for my flight to go. And I remember thinking as I signed up, like, okay, I need to share more fully that I'm like having serious doubts. Like, I don't think I'm in the right relationship. And I saw the documentary and I was like, okay, this might be the only place that I could go and bring this. And there's a container that could hold this like bomb I'm sitting on. And so I remember going.
So this wasn't this wasn't an open thing between you guys. Like it wasn't like you were going with the intention of figuring something out. Like she had no idea.
Yeah. For the most part, she had no idea. And then obviously, like, you know, an attuned, sensitive woman, it's like she had all the ideas. Like we had really struggled the first, I think we were like 3 years into our relationship at that point. But, you know, it's just like constant turmoil and just it's just like the yoga of hell. It's like just practicing all the worst things to just constantly live in the like, least hospitable environment. And I think like, you know, there's you know, that's within a certain context. Like we were already deep meditation practitioners. That's where we met on a 3-month silent retreat. And, you know, we had all these tools. We had both been in therapy for many years. And so it's just really amazing to feel like even with all of that, you know, just the lack of shared framework, the lack of, for me, the lack of willingness to really be open, even though you could have asked me then and I would have said, yeah, I'm totally open. But just like a real unwillingness to really make myself vulnerable. And so, so we went to that workshop and I was like, okay, there's this, I need to explore this openly because I really don't know how to explore this sense that I have that I'm in the wrong relationship, that this person isn't the one and I need to break up and I'm too scared. And so I'm going to put this out there in this group space, which is where you saw us.
Holy shit. I had no idea about this context. This is so fun.
Yeah.
Learn. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was intense.
Wow.
And I just, you know, I just had a sense like, okay, Anne can hold this and, the space can hold this. And it's like anything goes. I really remember feeling that from the documentary. Like, and that's why I took it. Cause like, this was the scariest thing to try to share or navigate.
And are you willing to just recount what happened? Cause it's all kind of blurry to me.
Yeah. Well, we went into the room that morning and we had been in some fight from the night before. And, you know, we were really disconnected and she was in the corner sitting down, really upset. And I was just kind of sitting next to her, mad or, you know, shut down, just like, what do I do? And, avoidant. And I remember Anne came over and was like, what's going on? You know, cause I think at that point, the energy around us was just so heavy and caustic. And I maybe she said something or I said something. And eventually Anne was like, okay, like, why don't you guys, something's going on here. Cause Brittany at that point had started to cry. And so Anne was like, guys, there's something happening. And eventually she brought us to the center of the room. And yeah, she had us start to try to find our way into, in a less filtered way, just talk about what was happening and like be less nice. I remember her being like, stop being so nice to each other, you know, like what's going on? And then to my mind, that just gave me the in to say the thing that felt like the last thing in the world I would ever say between the two of us, which was, you're not the one.
Oh,
and
now I remember.
Yeah. And that was a bomb. And even now, just like it's I remember seeing the impact of that on her, and that then took Brittany into this really painful process. And still to this day, like that was like one of the largest ruptures that we ever experienced, just because of doing something like that, breaking our relational field in a group, you know, and then just, you know, triggering this huge process for her that I'm sure you remember. And then for me, this big process, which, you know, had something to do with the amount of energy and power and just like aliveness that I wanted to be living and didn't feel like I was living in my relationship, making the relationship responsible, and involved me kind of letting out the beast, or just like if I wasn't restricting, what would happen. And which led to me running around the room and taking off my shirt and screaming. And then at one point hurling this pillow, which, one of the pillows I threw, the first pillow I threw actually shot over, and like Brittany was being attended to by several women. It like threw across this big room and just like hit, I think it hit Anne in the back.
Oh God.
And I wasn't trying to, I wasn't looking in that direction. And then eventually some of the men were like, well, let's hold him down. And I lost my shit, and I grabbed this pillow to throw, and I popped my shoulder out. And, yeah. Do you remember that?
How could I forget? It was like, I was like, what the fuck did I just walk into? Oh my Jesus Christ. Can somebody call 911? I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah. And then just like Anne Bradney, like absolute goat, just came over and like so calm, was like, do you know how to get this back in? I just like the amount of safety I felt just being with somebody who like wasn't phased, was just like, all right, your shoulder's dislocated. Like,
yes.
What do you do?
And then I watched you like agonizingly pop your shoulder back in.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, to this day, like still such a reference point of my own work of like being somebody with a ton of power, a ton of energy. And, after I got it back in, I remember going onto the floor and crying, and people coming around, and it's just this like deep vulnerability. And still to this day, that's just something that's really stuck with me, of like how to have power and keep as much, if not more, vulnerability online. And so then, that obviously really shook our relationship, and we stayed together for a few more months, and then just really struggled on and off, and like, am I in, am I out? I remember just like months on end of just being like, I mean, every day just living in constant, like, I got to get out of here. This isn't right. Like, how would I know if it's right? And then eventually separating in the fall of 2021, and just like the total end, like a breakup with no hope of getting back together, and like 8 months of like really no contact, and just a full death of the relationship.
Yeah, I remember that. And also, I think you guys lost your dog at like around the same time, right?
Yep. I was on the phone with my brother one morning, and I hung up the call and made this like very direct plea to God to give me a sign and help me.
My God.
I was like, help me. I have no idea what to do. Like, I need help. And the next day I was driving down to officiate a wedding, and Brittany called me, and our dog had been hit by a car, and I drove back, and we put her down that day and buried her. And that was like the nail in the coffin of like, this relationship is fully over,
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm like reliving it all. I feel like your relationship has been the best love story I've ever watched. I'm like watching The Notebook again, for like the 14th time. That's like how I feel about your relationship.
Oh my God.
So could you tell me, just like, I want to talk about like the 8-week pause and like what happened afterwards, but I'm so curious if you could speak to what were some of the patterns showing, like what, it's like in my mind, or like sometimes people on the outside are like, when two people are in therapy and they're doing the work and they're doing this processing stuff, how could it possibly be so hard? Like, what are you missing? Or, I don't know if you could speak to some of those shadow parts in your own self that you've discovered since then that you weren't owning.
Well, certainly one of the biggest areas where we struggled was intimacy, and just the ability to, for me, the ability to actually open sexually, and then just sex as the aperture through which to understand just any form of vulnerability, any form of intimacy. And, and I had come into the relationship with sexual trauma, and like, that was always an easy place for me to say like, well, I have this, and like, so no, this is my boundary, and really just kind of hide behind like saying like, I have this trauma, you know, I was assaulted, you know, it was like, and so that always gave me an out, really. And so talk about like a shadow. It's like being able to fulcrum that and be like, well, no, this like, you know, this impenetrable wall of like, I'm not going to open, which I think there are degrees of that were definitely at play. And just being, developmentally and, you know, I was 24, 23. I think I was 24 or 25 at the time. And this just real unwillingness to let go into something larger than myself. You know, I mean, I think I was really living in a state of like, I need to protect myself, and I can't trust the relational field. I can't trust what's happening in my life. I can't open. It doesn't feel safe, and just really living in my own shut off world where, despite like all the work, and at that point I was offering, you know, I had begun my private practice and was practicing a ton of meditation, and but just a level of unwillingness and a level of being stuck in flight that I just didn't understand. You know, it was just really like not understanding how constantly activated and how constantly running I was. And, you know, just being with a woman like Brittany, who's so direct, so powerful, so clear in so many ways, I think made it all that much worse, you know, because there's this level of like, I'm here, I'm like ready to love you, I'm ready to be with you. And, that to my system just registered as even deeper levels of like, I got to get the fuck out of here, you know? And and that's in the midst of just like, you know, immediately she was my best friend. Immediately she's like the person I felt the safest with, the person I trusted the most. But somehow I think age had a lot to do with it, just not being able to really have enough honesty with myself and enough willingness to surrender.
What do you mean by honesty with yourself?
It was just so easy to make it about the relationship. And I think that's something I now have since seen so much of, where it's like, and you hear it so much, it's like, oh, this person just wasn't the right fit, or, you know, we just weren't aligned. And I think to myself, I was just deceiving myself of like, not acknowledging that I was the problem, which I don't love the language of that, but just being like, I'm the constant factor here. Like, and then when we broke up, the 8-month period is like, it just became so clear, like, oh, this is the thing I've done in every single relationship. This is what I've been running from my whole life. There was a level of spaciousness around like, I create this, I do this, but not in any sort of like self-flagellating way. It was just like an honest inventory of, I've made other people, specifically women, the source of my discontent my whole life, you know, and I made Brittany wrong, and I made the relationship wrong, and also the self-honesty of like, I really wasn't willing. And I don't think it was a conscious decision, but I really wasn't willing to really try.
Like sometimes it could be easy to hide behind the meditation and the mindfulness and kind of still be a little bit in the head with all the theories and the meditating. But then I think embodied intimacy is a not completely different animal, but it feels terrifying, I think, for the body.
Yeah, and just like something I hear so many people share now that I really, you know, it's like I really get it. It's like, if you're with the right person, it shouldn't feel like so much work. It shouldn't be this hard, is something I hear a lot of men specifically say. It's like, you find the right person, then it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this much work. And just like you're saying, there's a level of, it's so hard, it's so scary, and it's even harder on a level to acknowledge that I'm scared, and I'm scared of this, you know, like just that hurdle of like, oh, I even know that, like, I'm aware that this intimacy is hard. You know, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. And, just unwilling to, unwilling to be seen fully, unwilling to like be weak, unwilling to have like a huge part of my life be like allow it to be held by someone else. That's
Mm-hmm.
terrifying. You're like,
Yeah,
you know,
totally. How, like, on the other side of that now, like, how can you differentiate when a relationship is hard, in the wrong way versus when a relationship is hard in the, like, just embodied intimacy way?
well, like, as you know, like Brittany and I have started working with these two intimacy teachers, Justin and London. And I just feel, because even in the past 4 months, our relationship has just taken a total turn. I mean, our relationship has changed so much just in 4 months. We've been studying with them for over a year, but like I now see like relationship without practice is to a degree feels like a doomed effort. And that's maybe
Yeah.
intense, but I just, I can't really imagine how you could start to get into that terrain of how scary and painful it is without a really strong container and a really strong practice and really clear
Right.
maps of how to move and dance.
Yeah, I hear that. Like, and it's called the Yoga of Intimacy, their work,
Mm-hmm.
which I have started reading. I've been following them for a while, and I'm not partnered, which is why I have not gone to the retreats yet. But I think when I found their work, it was similar to when I met you guys. It's sort of like when my soul could recognize something that I knew was possible or something
Mm-hmm.
that could be true, even though my entire reality and all relationships and the people around me, nothing showed me that that could be possible, and there was like a
Yeah.
part of me that made this kind of relationship, like society makes monogamy. Well, I think there's like a different flavors of monogamy. One, it's like the one that we've just been handed down and we have no tools and we're
Yeah.
blindly just following it. And then this path, like yoga of intimacy, is really to me the word devotional. And it's like,
Yeah.
to me, the path of meeting God through another and treating relationship as divinely as you would showing up to your meditation practice with God every
Yeah.
day, right? And that, like, to me, just like my whole world opens up because it's like, oh, it's possible and this is actually like
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, gosh, I don't want to skip over the middle part of
Mm.
that separation too. Like, I'd love to know about that time and what it was like. Like, what were you
Yeah.
discovering?
Oh my God. That was so painful. Oh my God. Yeah. That was, I think I can say that was the worst period of my life. That was the
Mm,
hard, that was, um, yeah, I'm just like, I'm pretty sure that was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And yeah, so we broke up, and within a week, our dog was dead, and I moved to a new place. And my relationship that had been just like, I mean, God, to lose a relationship, I can't think of many things that are harder. And then I moved into this cabin in the woods by myself, and just this tiny little cabin in a different part of the state in Vermont. And I made a vow to myself pretty shortly into that period of time that like I was at very high risk for getting into another relationship and just kind of kicking the can down the road and just not doing my work.
mm-hmm.
And
Like you were seeing
kind
somebody else?
no, just like I had like gotten into something, and then very quickly because of that, like and it had nothing to do with this person, but I just felt the level of addiction and level of
Yeah.
dysregulation that just kind of was what would show up when I would start to get into a relationship, but something was just really clear, and so I immediately was like, nope, like I can't get involved and I can't do this, and um because I just saw, it was like I had this, I remember the moment I was at my desk and I was doing this writing practice, and it was like God came through me and was like, you will miss out on all of your work. You will miss out on facing the thing you've been running from your entire life if you
Mm-hmm.
continue. And then my friend texted me a John Wineland piece about the feminine cleanse, and he was like, "Hey, I think this is what you're talking about." And I immediately was like, "I'm doing that." And so,
what is the feminine cleanse?
The feminine cleanse is a practice that he outlines, where you, the requirements are you commit to a chunk of time where you're not in relationship, you're not masturbating, you're not distracting yourself, and you're not getting any of your emotional needs met through women. So like my mom, my sisters, it was like, even there I was withdrawing my energy, and it's like you are disconnecting from the way that you get your needs met through women or feminine energy, and your only relationship to the feminine is through nature. And so I committed to this really rigorous process of like, if I don't do this, I'm going to miss my life. And then the hallmark of it is like, you're done when you're no longer thinking about the next relationship. And it's really this just deep process of removing any tentacles or vestiges of like hope or holding out for the egoic patterning that I was at that time, to like have some sort of salvation through relationship, which is what I had been doing. It was like, I'll just, somebody's going to fix me or heal me or whatever. And, it was, and then one of the things he says is like, the real work doesn't really start until 3 months in. And so that was true. And then 5 months into being separate, and that also really involved not talking to Brittany at all, and really like, and so many nights I just wanted to reach out to her crying, just like help, because I started to descend and just like to the deepest layers of pain and fear and just all, the big chunks, of course, but then all the micro ways in which throughout the day in our relationship, I would go to her for soothing or, seek some sort of comfort, and the way I could just ignore these little, flare-ups of fear or anxiety or things that I wouldn't really have to attend to. And then 5 months into that, I sat a silent meditation retreat, a 3-month silent retreat, at the Self-Directed Center in Western Mass. It's called the Insight Meditation Society, and they have this forest refuge, which is like you go and you're self-directed, and you're in a place that holds about 30 people, but everyone's kind of doing their own thing. And that was when like the heat turned up, and I entered into this period of, oh my God, it was like 2 months of excruciating pain and terror, like every day, every night, like awake at night, like screaming for my mom, just like in terror. And and it felt like being burned alive. I mean, and in SE, it's like, just like one of the things that can happen, as it's like you get so still, so concentrated, and then you just fall through the floor into like a deeper energy well. And it's like all hell breaks loose. And so I became really paranoid, and I was like seeing and hearing things and getting delusional and just in just like constant terror. And like at that point, it was like I wanted to reach out to Britt. And so I would be like doing walking meditation. Eventually they pulled me out and they're like, you can't practice anymore. Like you're going crazy. But I would be doing walking meditation outside, just reciting her phone number, being like, I need help. Like, she's the only person I can talk to. And so it was like 2 months of that. And then I eventually, really broke through it. It was something that really opened up. And then that final month, my teacher, Rodney Smith, came and taught his last in-person retreat. And that was like, one of the most game-changing moments of my life was that month. But Brittany showed up at that last month. And so we were both there in silence together.
Well,
and
did
I
you
had
know
just
that she was going to be there?
I didn't fully know. I had a sense, but I, I didn't know until like one day I walked by the whiteboard. Yeah.
Because I heard this briefly from her. And also I've always wanted to say, I'm really sorry that at that time I wasn't in connection with you and I was like going full girl code, but I do really wish that I hadn't dropped you like that. And it wouldn't happen again.
All good, all good. I get it. I get it. I really do.
No, so 2 months you're in silence. You're going
Hmm.
insane in silence and you're reciting
Hmm.
Brittany's number. You're like, I need to reach out to Brittany. And then the third month she like appears
Hmm.
and you're both in silence. So you haven't spoken since you've broken up.
Pretty much,
And
yeah.
so you like see each other in silence and you're together in silence for the whole month.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
And the way Rodney teaches is like he's a transmission teacher. It's like nothing in the IMS world. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's a very awake being, and he's radiating that. And so I've been there for like 2 months, like working my ass off, and then in the first week or so, Brittany gets this just like lightning bolt of transmission from him, and like has this visible, like she starts hyperventilating. She like something of his teaching sneaks in and gets in so deeply. And so there I am sitting in the hall, like I've been waiting for 2 months for this guy to get here to like, support me. And then Brittany has this visible awakening. So it's like my ex-girlfriend is like getting enlightened in front of me. And I'm just like, oh, fuck my life, like, it was so painful because she's so I always think of Brittany as very advanced, and so that was just like a little extra salt in the wound. And so then we were there together for the full month in silence, and I had spoken to Rodney being like, I'm not going to reach out to her, I'm not going to try to talk to her, like I'm just going to let the relationship like really fully die. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just nights of grief. And I didn't have any hopes of getting back together. There was no, for both of us, I think it was like, but definitely for me, it was like, there was no part of my being that thought we should get back together. And there was no doubt. It's like, I really felt like I had made the right decision. And, but just, yeah, nights of grief and feeling the life we would never live together, and the children we would never have. And just the
Yeah,
immensity of loss, and
totally.
also the loss of a spiritual friend in this very unique context that, like, there's no one else my age who studies with him. It's like my
Yeah,
best spiritual friend in the room, and the loss of that
right.
too.
Well, I'm curious what made you feel that way, that like there is no part of you that like how did you know that you didn't want to be back together?
I remembered how painful it was to be in relationship and how wrong everything felt, or
Yeah,
how visceral and how wrong it felt. And when I decided to leave, how right that felt,
right,
and how that all felt like data that I was in the wrong relationship and that I
right,
needed to leave, Um,
right.
and then at that point, I had become really, really committed to my life and myself and my own direction, and being like, I'm really going to listen and follow my heart. And I'm not interested in another relationship right now. Like, I had really
Mm-hmm.
completed something in that cleanse, and I had cut off all my hair. I used to have really long hair, and I was excited for what was going to unfold for me um, outside of romantic relationship.
Mm-hmm. And so
Yeah.
the entire month, did you make eye contact?
No, no. And we would like pass each other on the road and like heads down, like no. And it'd just be like,
What?
just so intense. Yeah. So intense.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Very.
mean, I
And it
just
actually,
finished.
yeah.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
No, no. What did you just finish?
No, I just like, I just can't wrap my mind around anything around the context of it. Just having been on my own first 10-day meditation retreat and feeling how insane the energies are. Because I think in the past, lighthearted love and light LA meditation practice, is more like, it's just not what I thought real meditation actually is.
Mm.
Like it's like surprising to me that like meditation practice is like the deepest, darkest, most dense energy I've ever felt in my life. And bliss on one day,
Yeah. 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 Gotta plug in for bliss. But yeah, totally. Totally.
But yeah, maybe even like to people listening, like some people who haven't experienced like deep, like several day long retreats, like 10-day retreats or more, it's kind of hard to describe what happens, you know, like I just didn't know that it was like a whole transmission in the energetic field. You know, I thought it was like, oh, I'm just going to like not think about my thoughts for like 10 days and it'll be very peaceful, but it's not. You're like in fucking hell.
Yeah, that's always amazing to me. Like you can be, you know, the retreat centers are oftentimes very beautiful places, and it's like people would be like, you know, in my younger years, like, oh, like I would just love to take like that just sounds like such a vacation. And I'm like, just you wait until how bad it gets when you have all your meals prepared for you. You're not working. You're in a beautiful place, and there's nothing required of you other than just like sitting and walking, and just watch how deeply you suffer. You know.
I know, and so I'm guessing that's the time that, because you were saying God was basically like you're running from, you know, what you've run from your entire life, and so what is that? What were you running from your entire life?
As I said, I've been stuck in a fight response. You know, the like my history is like, you know, pretty much, ages 17 to, I mean, before that, everything, but ages 17 to, you know, 27, 28 were just like one, just never ending sequence of really intense things. And it was like, it was just like constantly scrambling my nervous system. You know, like I had been assaulted when I was 17, and then I moved to Honduras, and I had this like near murder experience. And then I was living in Honduras, and I was like living and working with gang youth. And then like I came back to the I mean, just like, and then just coming back to the US, and then just like death of friends, going to Standing Rock, like, you know, concussion grenades exploding around me, like, and just like, and then just a ton of meditation too. So it's like all these traumatic events, which I didn't recognize were overwhelming, you know, and then just so much expanding. We did this insano ayahuasca dive in Peru for 2 weeks, which was just like, just so much for a nervous system. And like there's an 8.0 earthquake happening while we're there, and like tons of people leave, and the container breaks, and like, you know, it's so my system up until that point was just so, it was just like, on one level, so unstable, and just on another level, just like working with that activation is like, I had spent so much of my life just managing that. And so, and then just running from anything that would trigger relational intimacy, running from anything that would bring about a feeling of vulnerability, really. And, and also being very adept at communicating and connecting, and, you know, like I wouldn't say I was a fuckboy, but like just so deeply wanting connection. And then the minute things got real, being like, I am fucking out of here. Like get, like, I am beyond gone. And so, and so then it was like, I hit a brick wall. Really, really on that retreat. And then it was that I hit that brick wall, and I had enough capacity online to say, I'm not going to move from this place. Like I'd practiced so much at that point that I had this deep resolve that I wasn't going to listen to what my mind said anymore. And that I actually fundamentally didn't believe my mind anymore. And, and then there was an experience on that retreat with Rodney that opened up this whole other world of freedom. And from then on, it was like I was never able to really fully believe the narrative of self, of ego, of like what this thing says, because it's scared. And that was just that. It was like it created this split in this beautiful way, where it was like there was what my mind said, and then there was what saw everything that my mind said, and it was like I just could never fully believe it again. And so then at that point, all the narratives about Brit, the relationship, it was like learning how to discern, like, this is mostly mind gunk.
I love that, because I feel like so much in this work, it's like I'm only really starting to get it finally, and I feel like I'll always be starting to get it, is like the stories might still be there, but I can just choose now. And I think for the longest time, it was like the most debilitating feeling and healing to think like once they're gone, Like once I overcome the hurdle of having these thoughts or these feelings, then I can move forward in my life. Then I can commit. Then I can live.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so beautiful. Like, do you still get the stories sometimes?
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting now that we have this practice together, because that's like all that's up until that point, that's just me in my practice. Like, like, and it's so limited. It's so limited. I mean, like, I used to be really like, you know, I had been a monk, for some time in Sri Lanka, and like my big dream was like to go back and be a monk for the rest of my life. And I just like really don't believe in that anymore. But because of just like the limitations of just being one person in your individual practice. But just as you're saying, you know, I recently it's just been like hitting me on a new level where we have this idea of like what our healing is going to look like once we go through it. And we have this idea, like keyword idea, of how it's going to feel, which is something we just like have no fucking reference point for. And so we have this disembodied ideal, and then we imagine we're going to feel this way. And then all the while we're just constantly missing the way it actually feels, which is like the only direct data we can actually get about what's actually happening. And so it's like, it's just this tremendously amazing and terrifying capacity of the mind to like make this story that like, oh, when I'm in the right relationship, or when I'm free, when I'm healed, you know, just fill in the blank.
Nothing like that to keep you from actually just being in the present. And I feel like that's why I've found that like actual intimacy is the practice, because you're forced to feel in the moment because it's somebody else. You can't be in your mind, like running the loop of like the future projection. Like, oh, fuck. I have to show up for this thing that is both of us. Like, it's like us each individually and then a middle thing.
Yes.
So you had been through your cleanse and you were like, okay, I'm really committed to myself and my own journey. And then I'm curious what happened. Like, how did you guys start talking again?
So a few days before the retreat ended, I wrote her this note because I at that point I was like, I miss this person, and I don't want to be in a relationship again, but I miss this person. And I had gone through this process, and I wrote to her like, I don't want to, you know, unpack our relationship. I don't want to rehash. Like, I just want to meet you from this place, because at that point I had this moment of really seeing how time isn't real. Like, and like, there's the cliche of that. There's some general sense we can get, but it was like, to the core of my being, I was like, the past isn't real. And so like everything that I thought that I knew about Brittany, all that, it's like, whoa, that's not real. And so I was like, I really want to meet you, Brittany, in this place and just connect. Like we both just had this insane retreat. It was so intense. It was like being in a microwave for a month. It was awesome. And I was like, I just want to connect. And so when we first met several years prior at the same retreat center, we had gone on this walk that's called the Loop. And we had gone out and to the right from the main retreat center. And we went on this walk, and that was like really where we started to connect. And then several years later, after this retreat, we went for this walk. And it's interesting. We went the opposite direction. Maybe we didn't go the opposite direction, whatever. And maybe 3/4 of the way through that walk, as she was like, okay, yeah, I'll go for a walk with you. I lost it. Yeah, I lost it. I had so much regret and so much pain and remorse that I was holding about how I had acted. And like up until that moment, we had been laughing and just two best friends who had been disconnected by an act of God, you know, like God's hand just being like, you're losing each other now. And you know, we started the walk and we were laughing and just talking about the retreat, and and then 3/4 in, I just broke down and I like couldn't pull myself together. I like couldn't take another step. I was just weeping and weeping and weeping. And it wasn't on that walk, but then the next day we went for another walk. But that first walk we walked for probably like 6 hours, just like, just like moving so slowly, stopping and talking. And at that point I had learned that she had gotten into grad school in California and was moving to California. And it was like, wow, she's gone, like, and I still wasn't in this place of like, maybe we could be together. And then on another walk, and this was like, another one of those just, I'll never forget moments, but we were walking and she was telling me about what she had uncovered in her process of our breakup and like the depth of self-worth that she discovered that just hadn't been really recognized by me in our first couple of years together. And I was looking at her as she was saying this, and I fell to my knees and I began like dry heaving. And I remember looking up, and I was looking at Kuan Yin. I was looking at this bodhisattva of compassion. It was like, and it felt like the first time that I actually saw Brittany, of being like, this is what woman is. Like, this is what a woman is. Like, I am a fucking idiot. Like, I have no clue. And I was with Kuan Yin, this idiot meditator, like wanting to get enlightened. And I was with Kuan Yin the whole time, and I had no fucking idea. And she just was standing there and made a gesture of like, "Are you okay?" Like, and I was like, "No, I'm good. Like, I'm good." But I was on the ground, just like, I fucked up, and and what it is to behold woman in your reality, in your reality of what woman is. And just how clear and obvious it was. Like, I just couldn't see. I just didn't know how to see, and like in Buddhism, it's like, there's all this talk about seeing things clearly. And it's like, I had no fucking idea. And, I'm remembering you saying earlier about devotion, like I wasn't willing to devote myself to something that stirred up so much fear and pain and internal sensation that I couldn't bear, like, I just had no capacity really to say I'm willing to give my life to this thing that's going to burn me alive, to this process that's going to, totally, destroy everything that's false within me.
Right. Yeah. It's like when the wounded masculine is kind of like in its protection mode, right? And it's easy to make the woman like the bad, or the relationship the bad guy. And it's just, I'm crying because I've been like, really on a deeper layer of like mourning the loss with Eric, which ended 2 years ago. And so it's like so crazy because like we also lost our dog. And so there's just been this parallel in witnessing your journeys, and also like just this like everything that you're describing and the way that you broke down and like saw Brittany in that way is like everything I would wish to receive, from him but, and not to say that like I had a lot of wounded stuff that I needed to own after our relationship ended too. But it's so funny. You're just really speaking to the heart of relationship and like conscious love. Like when everything falls away, everything that's like false falls away, and you like really just see the person in front of you. Like you just don't know, like, it's so beautiful to look at somebody you love so deeply and know, like, I don't know you. And every day I want to look at you like I don't know you. That's it's so beautiful. Thanks. It's like all the lies that we tell ourselves in relationship to for safety, to like make them into something so that we can feel safe, And it takes such incredible vulnerability to drop to your knees and just actually fucking see what's in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me wonder, like just the potency of what you're sharing of like even right now for like men to get to see that, cause there's something so like, it's like, whoa, like, we have no idea what women long for, really. We have no idea
Yeah.
what women long for, like how women long to be seen and held and just recognized, and like, and just the ages of just not being seen and understood for your power and your capacity and just sheer beauty and like, and not in some like kind of rigid, masculinized like format of like, I'm just this boss. It's like, that power in that openness, without anything to
Yeah.
prove, I mean, that was what was so piercingly communicated in that moment with Brittany. It was like, so it's just like highlighting what you're feeling and sharing right now. It's like,
Hmm.
um, what a gift that is to know. Cause I think so many men just, we don't know that there's a longing there.
Right. It's a longing for something that's like it's not tangible, that kind of love or like that
Yeah.
kind of transmission, and owning the women's side of it. It's like because of the ways that we aren't able to communicate it, like it comes out in all kinds of ways, like nagging or lashing
Yeah,
out, or
exactly.
the wounded feminine who is still secretly wanting you to be daddy. Like I know
Yeah.
that was something I wasn't owning in myself, and I had to do a lot of fucking looking at my own shadows to get to and seeing how that was playing out for me,
Right.
and why I wasn't able why I was pushing away the very thing that I was like wanting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Seriously, like this is better than The Notebook. I think we have to make a film.
Oh yeah. Good, good, good. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's like, yeah, I so long to be in this.
so for
Mm.
anybody listening out there, it is possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd love to know, well, so you dropped to your knees, you saw what was in front of you, and was that the point that you guys decided to try, or was it like several weeks later?
It was, I think on that same walk, there's like a series of walks the last couple of days. And, I remember saying like, if what we've seen is true, like if we've seen some critical facet of truth and like dharma realization, like why can't this work? Why can't this work? Um, and when I said it, I had this pang of terror run through me, like it being like, "Oh no,
Mm,
you just did the wrong thing. You are fucking like, what are you doing, dude? Like you're getting back to, it's just like,
yeah.
and that, and she was kind of like, what? Like, are you saying you want to try to be together again? And oh my God. I mean, that started, another 2-year process for me of like some of the hardest work I've ever done, because it wasn't like I had this, insight and then I was like, oh, Brittany's the one and I'm clear. It was like, oh, I just picked up all the pain I was running from, and like, just like put it back on, like,
Right.
what am I doing? And, and then just doing really specific attachment work. And, my practitioner at the time being like, this is the hardest thing you're ever going to do. Like you moving
Yeah.
through this attachment patterning is one of the hardest things you're ever going to do. And, going from deeply avoidant to just like anxious to like, just becoming scared of losing the relationship. And it wasn't easy,
Hmm.
because she had already gotten into grad school and was moving to California. And then I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Am I going to like move to California for another woman? Something I'd already done like twice before. And, um, just being like, oh my God, like what's happening? And yet like that, what had happened on that retreat for me was so unshakable. And it was just like, okay, this is just all the content. This is all of my food for the next 2 years. Like I'm going to eat this shit up, and I'm not going to let
Yeah.
any of it be this thing that like has me leave, I'm just gonna eat my suffering. And
Mm-hmm.
just like, and I just kind of living in the mental game of like, okay, like I'm gonna wait another few months, and if I'm not clear by then I'm gonna leave, and like, just and then eventually,
Mm.
Brittany being like, all right, dude, like we've been together for 2 years now, like back together, like, are you in or not? And that was the journey of like getting to proposing, and which is its own process. But eventually, I proposed, and there was something in proposing that really shifted things for me. Of just like, it ended the egoic capacity to like really think about leaving, and it was like it just closed the doors,
Yeah.
and from then on out, I just never really thought about leaving in the same way. And it's that sort of like, I don't know if you've seen Indiana Jones, but where he like takes that like step of faith, and like he does, it like looks like a canyon before him, and he goes to step down and doesn't know if there's anything there, and it's like his foot's met and there's this invisible bridge. And it really feels like connected to the rewards and the amount of blessing that come from real relationship. It's like there's a tremendous amount of faith and risk involved in saying, I have no guarantees that this is going to work out, and that I'm going to be okay, and that this is the right call. Like, I'll never have that sort of guarantee. I might live with this level of agitation relationally for the rest of my life. And if that's the case, can I handle that?
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, this eclipse has been intense. I remember you saying some. It has. I remember you saying something during our week in Montreal. We were just in our training together, and you said relationship is just about finding somebody you're willing to make mistakes with. And I really love that. It kind of it's like, relationship isn't easy, and it like takes this incredible amount of work, but it's like different, I think, than say what I grew up with my parents. Like that was like a different kind of hard relationship.
Oh God. Yeah. It was, I think,
because that's in the context of like no tools, and we're just lashing out at each other, and we're threatening to divorce and all this stuff, and codependency, enmeshment. And this flavor is a little bit different. It's like, I am willing to look at the shit that that this relationship brings up in me, bring it home. Like, how do I make that gold? And how do I grow and become a better man, or like more of a woman, by looking at it that way? And so it's, to me, I see it more of like an odyssey with another person of like, ooh, are we going to do this together? And then what are the blessings? Just why is it worth it?
Yeah. Well, just as you're saying that, one of the things that was always clear to me was like, this is growing me. This is challenging me. This is like just the self-awareness needed to say like, this is my work. Like, this is my work.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't hard because of her. Certain things are, but that's like those components of like, the dynamic where like the other person, or it's like, that's such small potatoes. And
totally.
And I could just always see like, this is growing me and expanding me, and training me into a level of depth that I would not get anywhere else. And at a certain point, really seeing like the fantasy of being single, and like all the, it's funny that like for men, like when we think about being single, there's always some like fantasy orgy that like we think is going to happen. And I'm like, there's no like orgy you're going to get invited. It's like, that's just not the fantasy of that, but it's like an archetypal
that's not
thing
necessarily
of like,
true. I mean, in the weird poly men that I keep attracting, that is a real thing that happens, which is why they stay poly. So I hope that I'm not ruining this for you and Brittany, but
yeah, just like in the fantasy realm of like, the other people I could be with, or like the other lives I would live, or like just how easy it is to get lost in the fantasy of like what could be, which is,
Mm-hmm.
it just became very clear that even if any of those things played out, it would be like I would miss out on a level of depth that me on my own doing my lone wolf thing, like having the adventurous whatever that I thought would bring me more fulfillment than what I was currently doing. I just really understood that was fantasy. And
yeah,
because every day I was getting to live a level of depth and a level of no escape that that I get, it's like it's so terrifying and so hard and can be so hard to trust, and and then what's really changed in the past year or so is that like I've really come to understand that a lot of those Disney portrayals of relationship are true. That there's something there about the what gets kind of communicated to us through movies about how fantastically beautiful a relationship can be that is actually true, and getting to live that every day, honestly, like being like I am.
That's beautiful.
Like you were saying so beautifully, like I am in a relationship with a woman who I know more than anybody on the face of this earth. And that's like, one of the greatest privileges of my life. And part of that knowing means that I really like have no idea who she is and get to see that unfolding in her every day, that I'm like, wow, I have no idea. Like truly, like not just cause like I'm saying it. It's like even just 2 nights ago, like seeing these capacities and qualities of her fullness emerge, that I'm just like, wow, like I would never see this. I would never get to see this without this level of commitment and depth and sustained practice. And then also too, being in contact in such a direct way with life itself and actual impermanence, and actually looking at one another and being like, holy shit, like without the noise of drama and conflict and attachment, it's like I actually have to open up to the fact that I'm going to lose you. And just recognizing that there's that I think on such a deep level, that was something I was so afraid of in our early relationship, that I just maintained drama and, just like kept myself guarded and really protecting myself from being hurt again, which was like a very clear vow that I made to myself when I was, 4 and 10 and 12 and 16, like just like, I'm never going to let myself get hurt. And part of the blessing is like, I'm here to be in contact with what's real, and relationship brings me into that every day in a deeper and deeper way. And all the stuff that we used to fight about, like, it's just not there anymore. And so I say it kind of offhandedly, but like the Disney stuff, it's like, I feel that level of like fairy tale, love. And I'll just say that, I had no reference point for how that would actually feel, because it's not like you're saying, it's so ephemeral. It's not like a mental thing. There's no translation of the mental fantasy to the lived experience. It's like, what is it to have an open heart? It's like Jesus Christ. Like that's a wordless experience. And, I get to share that with so much safety and so much container and commitment and depth, that it takes me into that thing that I think we're seeking in the orgy or in the like skydiving or in the fucking, intense experience.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like that full circle of what you were saying when we are chasing enlightenment or chasing an idea of healing, right? That's almost like the orgy, but it's like what we're chasing is unnameable, wordless, can't describe. And that happens in that moment, those moments in relationship when we've done the hard thing. And then you're like, it really feels like like you go to an alternate plane of consciousness where you're like, this is possible. And I'm only speaking to this because honestly, I've mostly felt this with Kate. Kate and I have really, we've been working on the yoga of intimacy. And because we've been friends for 22 years and with all of our complicated friendship dynamics and like abusive family and, you know, all the, so we feel like we've been learning this through each other, you know, because nobody else can trigger me into a state of like fucking terror, childhood abandonment. Like we can both make our biggest nightmares come true. And Kate is my best friend of 22 years. And Kate is also in our training, by the way.
Yeah, Kate's awesome.
And so we will just be like, and we've had to navigate it together. But then when we do, we're like, oh my God, I could never love anybody. Like I've never known this amount of love to be possible. It's like indescribable.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what do you like in those moments? Like, is there an internal process that you go through, or is there like a part of your body you bring your attention? Like what's your way of like holding yourself and navigating like that arc of like, this is so scary and so hard. And like, how do you kind of walk yourself through that? Or what are the things that like you're doing to make that, to be able to come out on the other side of that?
In the past, it was stonewalling, like my mom knew how to do. And it was like for my partner to come tail between his legs and save me. And now in my practice with Kate, well, I feel like it's taken us so many years and we just did it yesterday, but we slowed down. And like, because before our week in Montreal, we had like the worst rupture, I think, of our entire lives. Like just triggered like just insane amounts of like I felt like rage running through my fingertips. Like I was like terrified. I was like shaking for 2 days, and this was all over text and voice note, which we've learned to never do again. That is a rule now. So it's not even just one thing, but it's like the practice that I, you know, like in attachment work, when you know your different styles, and both of us are disorganized. So that makes like, it just is explosive. And it's like, we learn to create a guidebook, you know, it's like each time, what do we choose to do different? And like, when we're more settled, like we kind of go back and do the recap, and we're like, oh, this would have worked, you know, like what was really happening here. And then we like put that in the guidebook for next time. And so like before RA, we had that huge explosive rupture. That was terrifying. And this happens every time we fight. I'm always like, I go to the place of like, we can't be friends. And we always laugh about that afterwards, because it's like, we've been friends for 22 years and we're still like, I think this is it.
Yeah.
That we could even keep going there. And then like RA was amazing. And we had a little bit of a rupture on the last night of RA when we were at the spa. But luckily we were soaking and we were going slow, and we had learned and we had just learned in RA about when we have those value judgments and what are the underlying values. And so honestly, that's been huge for us ever since then, I think, because like we'll actually pause and be like, okay, pause before we like and one thing we do is like, we used to fight about time because her dad used to make her 3 hours late to everything, and my dad made me 3 hours early. So we were always like six, like just never agree, you know?
Yeah.
And it took us several years to work through that trigger. And so we decided to create a container. We call it the time warp. And when we're entering the time warp, we're like, time warp, you know, we're entering the time warp, and it's a way to give consent. Are we both actually, do we have the capacity to go into it right now? And, you know, like, is it the right timing? And that's been really helpful to just like notice where our landmines are and create like, let's create like put warning tape around it so that we can be extra careful and tender and sensitive, and remember that we're in this for each other. You know, it's not just me for me. And then after the RA, we slowed down that day, and we separated because we had to not be talking about it at the spa because we were getting really heated. And then we came back together, and I think because of the training in RA, we were like, okay, what are the underlying values here right now? And I'm like, I have a value for this. And she's like, well, I have a value for this, and they're different. And that gave us grounds to then be able to see each other clearly rather than just let like the amygdala assume that like this person is my father and this person is my mother. Well, what was I saying?
You and Kate. And navigating that post Boda Boda and what you do for yourself and also just like, just still wondering like, how you as a woman, like what your process of holding that sort of energy and charge and like navigating that in yourself looks like.
Yeah. In the moment, I think it's like finding the neutral place in my body, finding things to orient to. And like, gosh, I wish I had a better, like, I know in this moment, but I don't think it's just like in that one moment. I think I've spent a lot of fucking time cultivating my healthy masculine energy or like bringing in the resources of like Kali Ma or Kuan Yin or all these ways that I've found safety in my own body and being and safety and being able to own I'm holding me right now and I'm not responsible for her emotions, which is like my biggest thing. I kind of tend to merge and then we get wobbly that way. But if she can hold her own and I can hold my own, like we can navigate this if we just go slow and we remember that. And I'm remembering that this is in service of our relationship. It's not just me trying to defend myself against a scary monster, which is how I used to relate to her. But that's part of the devotion thing, right? Of choosing to stay. Like that's like the creating secure attachment of like, I'm doing this for us. And so that's kind of what it's like that witnessing part that stays online, even though the like terrified lizard brain part of me is like, you're fucking terrifying. I'm never going to be your friend again. Goodbye.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the big thing.
So wild.
And starting, and like, I learned this in DARE, attachment repatterning, of like really scanning the person to see if there's actual danger, you know, because my brain is making that real. But like after our huge rupture, she actually came to visit me in Santa Fe for a rave. That was like our repair.
Like
and
recently?
The whole time, before RA, it was like rupture.
Before RA.
She came to visit me. Yeah. And then she came to visit me and we went to this rave where we dressed up as our favorite like high school fictional characters. And, but that visit was like scanning the person in front of me. Like you were saying, like, who's really in front of me? Is it the big, is it my mom? Is it like all the versions of woman monsters that I like, that have hurt me? Or
totally.
I think I looked at her with fresh eyes, for the first time. And I really wanted space to be held for me during that trip. And I never really brought it up, but we had done some mushrooms. And then after we got back from the rave, we were just like cuddling in bed, which we never do. Just like, we were like, why don't we do that? And I think it's like, cause we've been friends for so long. And then, you know, she's bi and it's just like, I cuddle with friends all the time now, but I think when we've had that level of intimacy, there's some barrier of like, ooh, what does this mean if we cuddle? Are we then lesbians together? Like just things that were unspoken, you know?
Yeah.
But she was holding me and I relate so much to what you were saying because I think I hold myself to like like I can be intimate with people, but then there's this part in here that like rarely anybody gets to see.
Yeah.
And she like held me and I wanted space to be held for my experience, for me to talk about it. But I just like broke down. I like completely like broke down in her arms and she was like, you know, doing what her grandmother used to do to her. Like she would like blow on my eyes and she was just like rubbing, like just like petting my face and just like really holding me in it. And I'm like getting, but it probably lasted for like a good 10 minutes of really being in that like profound level of pain, just like feeling Nala, I was like trembling too. It was like all of the years of growing up with, you know, my mom who has quite narcissistic tendencies, I will say, just like terror. It was like the terror that was about my mom that I had projected onto Kate in our friendship my whole life. Yeah. She was holding me in that. And that was like one of the most reparative experiences we've ever had in our friendship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when we are now in conflict, I don't see her the same because we've been there. I'm like, check, Tammy, who is in front
Right.
of you? Is
Right.
it the
Right.
monster, or is it the one who held you while you were
Mm.
being terrified of the monster?
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear that, it's like just the level of, yeah, the level of healing that's only possible in real relationship, which is
Mm-hmm.
where just the profound limitations of, or just kind of the graduate level of like you work with a practitioner or a skilled therapist or somebody for as long as it takes to be able to get to that point where then you're doing what you just did, and able to actually
Yeah.
experience that in real time with somebody else's body. And um,
Mm-hmm.
hmm, wow,
Yeah.
wow. I didn't know the level of depth. That's so special.
Mm-hmm. We have a really special relationship. Yeah. So I'm curious then, let's see. I guess I'm curious what practice looks like for you guys showing up every day.
Yeah. We practice every morning. Um, the first thing, get up and we both go into our own private solo practice room and practice for 30, 45 minutes, an hour. And
And for
then,
anybody listening who like isn't tuned in on this work, what does practice mean?
yeah, so we have a couples intimacy practice that we do every morning. Um, Sometimes if we need to do it in the evening, we will, but it's every day. And so I'll be in the room where she'll eventually enter, but she has a separate room that she goes into. And so I'm doing my solo practice and she's doing her solo practice. And I don't really know what her practice is, which I think is intentional. It's like, I don't really know what she's doing in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm doing some variation of conscious masculine practice of, like, for me lately, it's just been really, going into and seeing the emptiness of all phenomenon and actually becoming that space of awareness itself, which then plays heavily into, is one of the most fundamental ingredients of our couples practice when we come together. But after a period of solo practice, she'll come in and then we go through a pretty basic format of each partner. There's a practice called I see, I feel. So one person starts out as a
Mm-hmm.
feeler, one person's seeing, and there's syncing up of breath and um, very, very simple practice. But Lennon and
Mm-hmm.
Justin talk about how like that's the only practice you actually ever really need. How that can merge,
Mm-hmm.
morph into healing, and can shift into hot, and can just like it's like the whole path is contained in that feeling and seeing. And the roles switch at a certain point. So whoever was just the feeler becomes the seer. And then we move
Mm-hmm.
into I want. And so each person has a period of just being able to name what they want. And
Mm-hmm.
and then practice ends, and there's a closing ritual to that and a bow. And then we move on with our day and we don't talk about what happened in practice. So there's no
Mm.
processing of anything that comes up in that container of practice, which is genius technology. For
Yeah.
any of the like gnarly terrain that you hit, but then also like a bummer for, all the incredible moments that happen where it's like you want to like go back and talk about it, and also just preserving the integrity of that really sacred space. And I can just say, like, since establishing a daily practice there, we don't really fight. If something comes up, we practice and
Mm-hmm.
and don't miss the opportunity. That's like a good conflict for really good connection and intimacy, um,
Mm.
and then like throughout the day, if something happens, it's like we're not really doing any processing anymore, and so the amount of like verbal like processy, the
Oh,
thing that I think we
amazing.
thought was like the point of being in relationship was like we're just gonna process, like fucking shoot me in the
Yeah,
face, like never again, like
totally.
there's just too many words, and so we really don't do that. And also just that it's like you're saying, in that example with Kate, like the communication is so physical, it's so energetic, and words really just I'm as a pretty like wordy guy, like I'm really learning the limitation of words and loving that, really loving that, because it's just like a deep moment in practice. It's like if I go into trying to put words to it, it's like I'm immediately going out of the direct experience of it. And it really is this process of leaving behind the mind, the mind that wants to know and be able to control and say like, oh, this is this, and moving into a totally other way of experiencing life and love and intimacy in another person.
It's a way of almost like bringing your own personal spiritual meditation practice into relationship, where you guys drop in and kind of like sync energies and really bring into presence what's actually happening underneath the thoughts, right?
And too, just because it's been one of the most valuable pieces. Like for men, it's like, okay, I want to live my purpose. I want to be giving my deepest gift. And this practice ensures that happens, because you have this person who knows you better than anybody else, constantly calling forth anything you're not giving, and any depth that's left ungiven, unexpressed, any place of hiding, that's just constantly being brought out and released. And so the extent to which we both now do that for one another, where it's like, so many people are afraid of getting into a relationship and losing themselves, and there's just no way of that happening anymore, because you can feel it. You can feel it's like when somebody's not really being who they are fully, or they're not sharing, or they're not expressing. It's like I feel that as pain in my own body. It's like, well, that level of contraction, and so it's kind of all getting magnetized forth.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I'm sure this translates into your work now with men. I know that you said you were starting to do a men's group. I'm curious if you'd like to share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So just a recent offering is a 8 weeks men's group that will be, my best friend Pete and I will be starting. And he's also just like a man in relationship, a man really deep in the work, a very wild man. And a big part of it really is this vision that I've had for a long time, but just really coming in more and more intense ways of just like the sort of war on men, and the need for men to really learn how to find each other again. And so we'll be offering this 8-week group that'll be kind of training into and learning and really just like finding the joy and delight and the ferocity and fun and depth of really being together in intentional ways. And then that starting to generate some more momentum and attention towards a deeper year-long training that we're in the process of developing, that'll really be in service of training men how to be in group, but then also how to run groups. And so there's a component of learning how to actually facilitate a range of processes and just, everything from the solo internal component to the actual holding of space and a lot of kind of radical aliveness principles of just how to really trust a group field and bring forth all the different ingredients that show up when we butt heads, when it feels like, there can't be two big, powerful men in a room together. And, so that's something that's unfolding, and we'll be starting at the end of April. And there's information for that on my website, and, registration will be open below. Soon. Cool.
Amazing. What are you like most inspired to do in your work? Like, what is your why?
There are a few, but I'll just recently in practice, actually, this vision that came to me was, had so much to do with schooling. And, I've connected with, just how, violent and like what a colonizing process, our modern education is, just like how we all go through that thing and like, holy fuck, like it's no wonder our souls are dampened down and like we're
Mm-hmm.
disconnected and fragmented and all that. And it just recalling that, the impact of that experience on me, and then feeling like I've had to do so much to reclaim embodiment and be viscerally alive and have joy and have creativity and have bigness and have, fearless expression online. And
Mm-hmm.
that's taken me so much time and so much energy. And
Yeah.
I just really clearly saw like that process for everyone, but then specifically men, and just the implications of that for our society, for our families, for relationships, for the world at large. It's like, it is a real problem that our men, that we are disconnected from ourselves and from each other and from our bodies and from the tremendous amount of power. I mean, like, just the amount of porn, the amount of caffeine, the amount of alcohol, like the amount of substances that men consume just to try and feel
Mm-hmm.
some modicum of ease and freedom in our lives.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
it's horrifying. And just how much that
Yeah.
disconnects us and like dampens down our system. And so for me, it's like, I think at this point, one of the biggest whys is, I couldn't imagine, not being as alive and as happy and as free as I feel today. And I want every single human being
Mm-hmm.
on this planet to know that for themselves in their own unique flavor. It's like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want people to be more like me. I want people to be like as free and radically empowered and alive and fierce and just out there as physically possible
Right.
in this lifetime. And so that's my commitment to
Right.
serve, is like, how do I support people, and specifically men, in that journey of doing this thing that I believe we all really want, which is like, I want to be happy. I want to be free. I want to be alive. I want wildness in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be turned on. I
Right.
want to fuck, like all of this energy that we have that's been brutalized out of us, and the
Totally.
school piece,
Yeah.
just like a very tangible, clear example of like 12 plus years of grades and just getting trained into being these dead automatrons. It's like, I'm not willing
Totally.
to sit back and be like, oh yeah, like, that's okay.
Right.
you know?
Right. And not to mention just the navigation of how hard it is to be a man and all the messages and the new wave feminism that's like man bashing, which is, I think, totally the opposite of like what we're wanting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and yeah, like my Vedic astrologer was saying like, yeah, like we need to teach men how to be, that they're guardians, not warriors. And I think that's part of the restoring the balance that's missing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm so excited that you're doing this work. Thank God, because I send any man that comes my way or that wants to work with a man to either you or Sanjay, who is also a radical aliveness practitioner that works with my ex. Yes. And my last question, I'm curious, is like, yeah, we've just like covered so much in our conversation together. And, just for anybody listening, if there was just like a well of like, or like a tidbit of wisdom or like advice that you'd really want somebody to hear, what comes up for you?
That's such a sweet question. Yeah. The way I hear it is like, if I could, like, kind of Matrix style, just like download the how to fly a helicopter, like that scene where it's like, I don't know, or she's like, I don't know how to fly a helicopter, and they like, download it into her. Like, something I really want people to know. One of the things that's been a pretty constant theme in my life is how to inspire people to take that thing that they're the most afraid of, or the thing that's so hard in their lives, and like recognize it as just the best thing ever. And like the thing that's hard or scary, and how to like relate to that in a way that just undermines our mind's capacity to make us suffer, and just to really like not believe the conceptual reality that most of us live in most of the time, and so that's like the work that you do, the work that I do. It's like helping people get into their bodies in such a way that just, just uproots, the mind's way of relating to things that we call bad, things that we call good, like just the real like extinguishing of delusion, into just a ton of fun. Like I want, like those RA weeks are just so much. It's like the most fun I have is like being in those group process spaces where it's all the emotions, it's all the things, and it's a depth of connection that I really feel how much we're all longing for. And so I guess, what does that translate to intuitive wisdom? It's like, don't believe your stories about what life is and who you are, among many other things. I'm curious what your like wisdom nug download would be. Like you've got an audience and you want them to know one thing, or one thing that you want them to get.
Yeah, something along the same lines, but the phrase that has like really come, like God has really like brought on me the past few years, is your experience is the medicine. And it's like not your experience, like your trainings and stuff, but it's like all those times like where I feel humiliated putting myself out there, or all the times that I'm like grieving something and I'm like feeling bad that I'm like feeling like this. Like, how can I be like this if I'm a practitioner or whatever? Actually, that part is the book being written. Like my experience in that moment of feeling the grief, of being in the pain and turmoil, confusion, not knowing what's next, not having it all together. That's my medicine. And like, if I just let myself be in that, when I get to the other side, that will be usually what's in my course. What is the thing that I teach?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Well, thank you so much, James. This was so wonderful and just such a gift to me to get to drop in and really get to feel like all the ins and outs of everything I witnessed kind of from the outside. And I just feel like you just bring such a gift to this world. And I'm like, thank God there's a man out there like you doing this work.
It's so mutual, Tammy. Yeah, I love getting to be in one another's lives. And I was just looking at the wedding invitation. I was like seeing your RSVP, and I was like, I'm so psyched for you to like get to meet some of our deepest homies and just get to throw down. And it's such a pleasure. And thanks for including me and celebrating and recognizing. And yeah, it feels so mutual. And I loved getting to be in those groups with you 2 weeks ago and just like get to rip together. That was a definite point of like, oh yeah, this is good. Some sharks in the water.
I love working with you. I feel like we have like a good flow, and also just the fact that me, you, and Brittany are the only somatic experiencing practitioners that are like, guys, we don't have to have a tantrum every time.
Well, yeah, and yeah, more to come, and also just thank you for what you're doing. I really feel the healing wisdom of this planet like flowing through you, emerging from just like how you are and what you embody, and even just like on this call getting to cry and be affected and impacted. It's like and I shared this with you at the training, but just like I really see you in your process, and it's like similarly, it's just been such a privilege to be able to witness someone in this journey towards like actualizing and serving and just like really meeting people, in a time where like we really need that. So I bow to you, my sister.
I bow to you. Thank you, James.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Okay, see you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I'm including all the links below, so you'll find the link to James's men's group coming up at the end of April, so sign up for that. and also the link to the group docu-series, which is a documentary about a radical aliveness retreat that happened somewhere like 10 years ago. Keep in mind that the work has changed a lot since then and is less explosive and a little bit more titrated since we've advanced in our trauma healing technologies. And James and I will be starting to host co-ed online group processes in the near future based on radical aliveness and somatic experiencing work. So sign up for my email list as well as his on our websites to get the updates. Would love to meet you in person or online, and I'll see you next time on The Art of Relating.
My brother live in a jungle concrete, like a belly gone rumbling. Only wants a taste of the sky. Wind and fire set in the seeds for the son of his son to come with him one day. Taste the roots he was born from. Passing the story how all hands came together as one.